On live already. Are you recording?
Not yet. Not yet.
We're
I think we're live.
Oh, I know
There
we're
we
live.
are. Okay.
We were live because we
were live
the
like
other day.
4 minutes ago. Yeah.
40
Okay.
seconds.
I'm gonna start the podcast. Record. Okay. Great.
Let's
we'll
give
just trust
folks
that
a minute
works.
to show up.
Hey everybody.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to the reading.
Maya! She's really the best. Hold on.
Get
I'm
your
moving
microphone.
I'm moving this. So Maya. And we can even see your comments. So newsflash.
Awesome. Are those gonna constantly update on the comments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually. Cool. And last week we were like, hey everybody, share your comments. And then we were like, I guess no one
commented.
Anything to say. And then we went off and there were tons of comments. So we're sorry, we were not intentionally ignoring you. Also, I think the video is gone forever because we
lost the event. Hairball.
So because we lost the event. All right. We're going to get started.
Let's get started.
I would first like to take note of the fact that I look fabulous.
You do look fabulous. I think I look pretty great too.
Oh.
Do you not? Because I have a hat and yeah. You do look a lot better than I do though.
I just got fancy.
You did get fancy. Well, I was setting up, so I'm gonna give myself that.
So this way I can't see you. Can you scoochy woochy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I want to talk to you, not to your face on the camera.
How about that?
Yeah. All right.
We're in so tight.
We are in. Wow. Speaking of hairball, I just found so many.
All right, we're losing people fast.
We are
Nobody
losing anybody.
We're losing people fast.
We are not losing.
So anybody. I want to make the announcement to folks that so we did last week this episode on love in the time of Corona and about quarantine and relationships, and it went so well despite all of our technical difficulties that we really wanted to make it into a series. And so we've decided, and I literally just got the Facebook event up tonight, about an hour before this. So we did a horrible job promoting, but we just decided that every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go live on the Facebook.
We didn't just decide. We decided last week.
Right, but lives are busy, and we just got the Facebook event up. And we are going to go live 8 p.m. every Tuesday right here, and we're going to make it a Love in the Time of Corona series.
Yeah.
So, welcome. I guess this would be episode 2.
Episode 2, Love in the Time of Corona.
Yeah.
Love in the Time of Corona.
Which a time we're in, and we'll be in for a little bit. So hopefully this series doesn't have to go on forever, but I'm guessing it's going to go on for at least a couple more weeks. What about you?
I thought you were going to say months, and I was like, yep.
So where are you at right now? How are you coming into this?
Hanging at, that is an amazing function of the computer. Hanging out. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Hanging out and just ate too much dinner, and I'm excited to be here with you, babe.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I feel really good. We didn't talk about really at all what this episode was going to be about, which is classic reading aloud. But I'm actually going to bring up a topic tonight.
Okay. Did you bring something to read? Because that's what I want to start doing, is have people.
I did not bring something to read. I did not bring something to read.
I want to see that. I want to see who's watching.
Brian Powers is watching. Awesome. Old buddy from Kentucky.
Nice.
Yeah. So
he seems like a nice guy.
Do you want to hear my topic?
Nope.
I was so excited to give it.
Yes.
Okay. So I really there's a lot of news going around, and I think we've all had our kind of moments with the news, but There's a lot of news, unfortunately, right now around the virus that is about the equity of the coronavirus and how there is inherent racism and inequity occurring in the way that the virus is translating out into our everyday lives, particularly in minority communities. Death rates are higher. The way that the care is going around, I'm no expert on this, but that was something that I kind of like was reading about a little bit today. And so in thinking about this topic, it made me think in the bubble of reading aloud world and how we talk about our relationship and relationships in general. And this is a relationship podcast. I was thinking about, and this is a much smaller subset of that bigger issue, but that issue, very serious, real world issue that I'm sure a lot of the folks watching and listening know about right now. We're not necessarily going to talk about that today, but in the context of the podcast, it got me thinking about how we cultivate equity, true, real equity, deep equity, and love in our relationships. And I think this is something that I think we do a decent job at. I think we do a pretty good job at, but I just wanted to open up the conversation with that.
Yeah, that's the loudest puppy dog I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
She's
getting real crazy, real loud.
I think she's stir crazy. So, all right, let's talk about equity. I think that this is a great time to talk about equity because in this, in the coronavirus, so we're both home, Trousers with us, and we're both kind of like stressed out in our own ways at our own times, and we're both thriving in our own ways at our own times. And so, there's between the two of us, there's really not much difference in how things are playing out for us other than our roles at work and the fact that now I have a colleague, which we talked about last week, that I love.
Yeah, I'm your colleague. It's pretty awesome.
Right, and it's awesome. And you have, like an at-home dynamic that you're working on. So, there's a couple of differences. They're super subtle in my opinion. And I feel like, this time is a mirror for us. And did we talk about how important it is? Like, as we talked about it as a mirror for ourselves?
A little bit. We've talked about the kind of mirror concept in relationships like a couple of times. I think we dove into it a little bit last time, but especially now in spending so much time together. I think it's not only like a mirror for ourselves, it's also a mirror for like our whole kind of relationship and everything,
Well, and let me just say, it has been an interesting opportunity because all the stuff comes up and the same stuff that always comes up, and there's a lot more time to be able to work on it, right?
Yeah.
In
right.
our instance, we have a little bit of extra time. And so I thought it was interesting. So we had been doing pretty good, and we started fighting last week. We started arguing, and then kind of Trouser is amazing.
Our puppy dog's just running around here and making all kinds of noise. She's also
old and doesn't normally run. Well, she's spry. She's spry, girl.
She's spry.
So we have this. So we're in this experience where we're like, we started arguing last week. This is common. We talk about it often. It's always around my period. It's just a terrible time for us as we continue to try to bring a child into this wacky world. It's almost like, I don't know if it would be nice to have one now or not.
I think it would be a lot more difficult, although we have friends who have a newborn, and to them, they were like, it's actually a great time to have a newborn because we weren't planning on doing anything anyway.
Yeah, they said having a newborn during coronavirus is a lot like having a newborn.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So then we started fighting last week, which was a normal time for us. But then this week it hasn't really played out any easier. Why is that? Are we getting tired of each other? I definitely will say, let me just pipe up here. As we were getting ready for our run today, and I was like, I was doing that thing that I do before my runs where I can't seem to get my feet under me and I don't really want to be on the run and I'm like acting like a child. I'm thinking like, man, I'm annoying. And he's stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, feel free to.
Yeah. I mean, I think
say
that.
No, that's not true.
Well, I mean, I think what I think is we're getting to a point on week 4 of quarantine here where the relationship has to, all relationships need room to breathe. And that breath and expansion allows for space to kind of, roll with things and to be adaptable in the moment. And so when there's no space, when you've been together in, our house for an extended period of time and we're not going out, we're not seeing anybody else, we are, we're kind of tied together, then the expansion, then there's just much less adaptability and wiggle room. So I think what's happened, at least for me, is that I'm having a fairly stressful week at work, right? And so there's no room, there's no outlet outside of our house for me to kind of like air that frustration and, be able to just spend some my own time. And even if I go on a walk by myself or something, it's just different because I'm more able to leave that at work and then come home and be in a different space. But yet now work and home are in the same place. And so I don't have that luxury of adaptability. And I think that there is, bringing it to kind of at least the topic that I brought up right now, which is equity, like, that is me in that moment when I am in an unhealthy state. That is sucking equity out of, in my opinion, sucking equity out of the relationship because I'm drawing it all towards myself. And I need to in that moment because I have something to air. And so I think there's a part of equity here in the context of the quarantine that is about this kind of like unconditional acceptance and being able to unconditionally accept like where the other person is at. I don't know. It's an interesting, like it's constantly feeling like we're just navigating this really tight, rope or obstacle course in a way.
Obstacle course.
And typically that obstacle course is so much more manageable because we have other outlets, right? We're going and hanging out with other people. We're talking conversations with other people.
But it's interesting, like, so under the context of equity, then I think that this is actually a really, this is a unique time to work on equity because, again, there aren't any outside obstacles or any kind of outside context for us. And so everything oh my goodness, can I just hang on. Chelsea, go lay down. Go lay down. Lay down. Lay down, Chelsea. So, there isn't that outside kind of thing that we can distract ourselves with. So we're really faced with equity in our relationship at all points. And it's interesting because it's been coming up a lot. So this morning we were reading, so we did our spiritual readings this morning, and we were reading about how to talk about suffering. So if I am suffering and I am in pain, we are supposed to go toward the other person. I think it's so interesting when we do these readings because they are so focused on going toward the person, connecting with the person. And I think the thing about equity is that, in my experience as a woman and in relationships, like you get afraid when there isn't equity. You're afraid that like I'm going to be pushed over or not taken serious or somehow hurt in this process. And so the first thing that I want to do, and I'm a fighter, right? Like if you're thinking about fight, flight, and freeze, I go toward. But the first thing I want to do is run away from those circumstances or those situations
when it feels inequitable to you.
Yeah, because it's like, gosh, this is so familiar, and it's such a uniquely really hopeless feeling. Like when I don't make money in my business, I think I'm going to pivot and make money in my business. And when I don't like get my way in some other way, I'm like, okay, I'm going to problem solve. But like with issues around like particularly male and female and equity, it's like,
or partners.
Yeah, in relationship, it's like, is there really equity? And it's, for me, it is much harder to go toward because it feels like it's been a losing battle over the course of my life.
So what I'm hearing you saying is like in other aspects of your life, when it feels inequitable or something feels unbalanced, you're more apt to pivot and find a way around and kind of accomplish that or get around that. But within a relationship and particularly a partnership, and then multiplied by the fact that we're in a partnership that is quarantined in one house right now, it is much more difficult because the options to go around that are, much more difficult. And so you kind of have to face that, imbalance head on right now.
Right. And like in reality, we don't really go very far if we're frustrated with each other anyways. But yes, that's how I felt this morning. I was just like, we were at each other, like, or at least I was frustrated. And so this morning we're talking it through and I'm just like, where does one go in this situation? We're literally quarantined. And on the other side of this, I'm so freaking grateful to be quarantined with you. Like, I'm so grateful for it. But yeah, it is hard. I think, equity maybe is the topic, or maybe it's just around whatever, but like turning toward someone in the midst of it. And so here we all are in quarantine and we're being asked to turn towards this person who's really ours. Not for everybody, of course, because there are relationships out there that people are very much trapped in. But for those of us who don't feel trapped, it's like we're being asked to turn toward constantly.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I can't imagine. Like I'm an extrovert.
To go deeper in, even though you feel like you're so deep in the request, even in this, to at least what I'm hearing, and I very much agree with you. It's like even when you're deep into like in this situation and things get hard and all that you feel like you need to do is to get away. For us, we're at least some of the readings that we've done, and at least like what we're learning is that you just actually want to turn into that. You want to turn into it. You know what it makes me think of?
What?
A really funny thing. When they teach you how to get out of if your car hydroplanes, is a tip for all you people out there. If your car hydroplanes and you turn into the turn. So if you start to do this way, you turn in.
Yeah.
And that's like when you're spinning out of control.
You do that thing that feels counterintuitive.
Exactly. You turn into the opposite way. And so maybe it sounds weird turning into it, but yeah, you turn into which other way. It makes sense to me. Makes sense.
You do the thing that's counterintuitive.
You do the thing that's counterintuitive, and yeah, it's just that's what I'm really feeling right now. It's like yeah, it's just we turn into it, and in the argument this morning, it was like the answer that we needed to do was actually lean into each other, even though after 4 weeks of quarantine, all that we wanted to do was just like get away.
Totally. Like not have to go deep. I mean, I'm dying to know what other people are doing. Like, everybody's talking about what they're doing, like what I'm seeing on social media, what I'm doing in my business, what I'm cooking. I think I've heard parents talk about either being totally overwhelmed by having to both like homeschool their kids and work. And then I hear about like families who are so grateful to be spending time together, like kids who are home from college and just these sort of, it's totally unique circumstance. And I'm wondering what people are doing about their relationships.
Yeah. So we have a comment here. Tag says, and hey to everybody watching, we've got a pretty good crew out there watching. And Tag said, what are some examples of turning in?
Well, I will. Thank you for asking. So I will say one of the suggestions that I've gotten, and it occurs to me often when we're fighting, and I can't do it. Like I can't do it. Is to suggest that you and I sit back to back and lean on each other. And even as I say it, I get like kind of choked up because I'm like, that would work. But like I can't
What is that?
do it.
So that's a physical. That's
it's a physical turning it, and it's I mean, you're not looking at the other person, but you are sitting back to back, and that's awesome. And you're sitting back to back, and you're you're touching the other person, and you're kind of having that physical experience of leaning on the other person. I think the physical experience is actually a pretty potent one.
Got it.
The other things of turning in are,
and just to add to that, on the I think that's a really interesting point, because it's often you think about language-wise or mentally you're turning in, but like not forgetting that sometimes the physical turning into it is key. One thing that we brought up before is even when we're fighting, like holding hands. Because there's
a good night kiss,
or a good night kiss, like there's a physical presence there. Yeah, so I like that. What were you going to say after that?
Well, and also like to turn into the other person is also, the reading this morning was, tell the person you're suffering, tell them that you're struggling in your suffering, and tell them that you need help.
Right.
I'm suffering. I'm not doing well. I'm angry.
I'm angry at you, and I want you to know that.
And I need your. I know I'm angry at you, and I need your help.
Mm-hmm. I'm angry at you, and I need your help. Yeah, yeah. That was the suggestion, was to ask that, and I think that
was a tip from Thich Nhat Hanh, How to Love.
So the example for me there is when somebody, if Marisol, if you make me angry, the best person to that I need to lean on. Right in that moment for support in helping me release and move through my anger is actually the person who created it. And that in that moment, for me, you're the person, if I'm angry with you, you're the person that I want to push away.
Totally.
And especially now, because we're together 24/7 all the time, and I can't go anywhere. And, so like, that this is like an even more, so like not only do I, if I'm angry at you, want to push you away in that moment, but also there's an added weight of the fact that I can't actually quote unquote get away, or I can't go anywhere if I'm angry about that. So the whole like asking you, I need help with this anger, is a complete radical idea.
You know what would happen if you told me I need help? And maybe this is just part of my personality, because I do actually like to help. I would just, I don't know, I could feel myself soften. Like, oh, I've upset you and you want help. It's like, I would just totally soften. The other, the thing that we ended up doing as far as turning towards each other is, one, we didn't walk away from the conversation. We kind of kept at it. And it was interesting because the whole conversation was around time management. Like, we woke up a little later, which left us with less time to get prepared for work, which did have a domino effect throughout the day. I think it really put both of us behind in a lot of ways. I didn't get my creative time I was hoping for this morning, and you were really behind in work all day. And we knew that would happen. And so we were trying to cut corners on our morning spiritual practice, yet we both feel committed to it. And so, what we did is we kept talking about it, which took up time, and we did our morning spiritual practice, which took up time. And then after that, I was like, here, let me show you this joggers outfit that I need, and these new slippers, because I really don't wear anything but slippers and sneakers anymore. So it like we turned into each other instead of going with that initial frustration around like, oh my gosh, it's later than it needs to be. And there were some negative consequences throughout the day, but not on our relationship.
Right.
And so, so is the relationship more important than work? I mean, for sure, but also like both are pretty important.
Yeah. Justin says that he's watching on us.
No, I don't think he's watching us. I think he's saying that's what he does to get away.
Oh, got it. Working from my garage. Got it. Oh, okay.
Maybe that's where
I thought we were being watched on a 50-inch TV.
I mean, that would be amazing. You should also watch us on your 50-inch television. So if we think about equity again, how is equity playing out in this moment?
Well, I also think about, while we're on this kind of arguing thing, which I think there's lots of other ways, but one thing that I want to bring up and ask you is that, we argue very differently, right? So, we argue very differently. So, I am very, kind of can be methodical in the arguing, can be like, I want to kind of work almost through a process, or that's the way my brain works, is very process oriented. And you're very just like, you are just, you wear your emotions on your sleeve. You show it, you show up, you want radical honesty, you want
on both sleeves.
On both sleeves and on the front and written down the side of your pants, like American Eagle or something like that all the way down. So, you kind of approach it like that. And so it can cause tension because I'm constantly thinking about, now wait, we this and then there and then we're going there, and why can't we get here? And you're just kind of like rolling along with, wanting to get automatically at the root of the issue or whatnot. And so there is actually issues of equity that come up in that, because we have to actually, in my opinion, and maybe you have a different one, in my opinion, we have to do some level of compromise within that argument because we argue so differently. Like, I think it's on me to move quicker, to respond, to kind of keep up with the discussion or the debate, to like give you room to experience your emotions. And I think it's on you to like also work at my speed. Like, there is a balance and a dance that happens there. And that kind of both equitable dance is something that is really difficult. But
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when do you think that mindset kind of changed? Because I think in the beginning of our relationship, you worked really hard to just do it my way. And that was actually your effort towards equity.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, the man has been oppressing, like the patriarchy has been oppressing women for a really long time. I'm going to go in the direction of Marisol kind of unequivocally, or like, for starters, every time I'm going to go in the direction of Marisol, and then, maybe I'll get my needs met later, but basically I'm taking one for the team because men's needs have been met for an eternity. And so,
and it was an ethic.
Right.
It was approaching it from an
and
ethical
it was,
standpoint,
and and it was what we've talked about a lot of, like, there's a term for it that you may remember, but like, putting people, like giving people some advantage because.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a little bit, you can think of it like a pendulum, right? So it's swayed all the way in one direction, and it needs to kind of sway a little farther the other direction so that it can find balance. Like, that is the goal, is balance, but like you need to go kind of like farther in a way to.
So when do you think it occurred to you? When and why did it occur to you now that we need to work towards more equity? Because I think the conversations in our relationship have been much more around like 50-50, which, as we know, coming into this again, we had a lot of reparations to do around patriarchy. So it wasn't 50-50, and that's how it needed to be. So now it's turning into more of a 50-50 conversation, which I'm totally fine with, and I think it's time. But like, what changed for you?
Yeah, I think what changed for me was, I've been doing a lot of like self-inquiry around being able to have the confidence and have the poise in order to express my needs and my emotions. And for me, it was so much easier to adapt and to adjust than it was to like stand present. I could much easier adapt to where you were at and breathe through that process rather than be vulnerable and put myself out there for a variety of reasons. I had fear about upsetting you. I had, I didn't want to upset you further than maybe what I already had. I had fear of myself, that I would say the wrong thing. I think that sometimes especially in those situations, because I don't have a lot of
practice in expressing my needs and expressing my emotions, I overthink them and they will come out wrong. So I have a hard time expressing them.
But you also, yes, I hear all of that and thank you. But we were also talking about it from a position of ethics too. So.
Right. And then there was that whole layer
Okay.
of like, I just believed, and especially, and I wanted to really demonstrate to myself, to our relationship, and to you that, I was coming to this as a man who really, wanted to recognize the way that patriarchal systems have influenced both me and you, and work together to break those down.
So then the change came with the self-inquiry and the deeper dive, and now you're like, oh, well, I have a voice too, and there's a way to express that. Is there still a way to express that and not participate in the patriarchy?
Yeah, I mean, I think
let me just finish, because I will say that it has been so reparative that you almost like the silence that you brought, or not silence, like the stepping back that you came to this relationship with, even though it was like one part ethics, one part you couldn't find your voice or weren't ready to speak up, was really reparative. So it worked really well to make me feel like I had freedom and safety and confidence and all of those things in this relationship. So it's almost like it's been perfect timing, because I have the confidence, so we can move on from there.
Yeah, well, I think part of that was because it was genuine. But to your question earlier, in like why now and how is it coming? I think it's actually also when it has built that foundation of trust and a little bit more understanding. Like, it is also challenging those same systems by me as a man being vulnerable and sharing my needs, because I've been taught for so many years not to, and that I don't have any needs. I shouldn't have any needs. I should just be strong, take care, not necessarily like accommodate, but just like, just adapt to the situation and like do that. Don't be vulnerable at all. And so expressing needs, there's a big part of vulnerability with that. And so I think there's, I'm thinking about it like two aspects. There's one, like, needs expressed where it's a controlling aspect. And I think that that's the aspect that we were working on, like, getting away from, right? This controlling aspect where I didn't want to be controlling of you because of all those aspects of patriarchal systems, right? But at the same time, what we also lost when I didn't want to be controlling was my own needs and person and like who I was also. And so I think by not being controlling, but being able to elevate and bring up who you are at your truth, at your core, by expressing your needs and your desires and your power within the relationship in a healthy way, that is truly that's, in my opinion, can be revolutionary for a relationship. And I hope that we get there. I hope I continue to develop that.
And also with it has come more of that, like, strength and courage, and that capacity to care and be, it's interesting because it's almost like all of it's getting better, right? Like your capacity to kind of care and show up and be strong, and just like those pieces that you were saying, like, if I do all of that, I was taught to do all of that without vulnerability, but as you become more vulnerable, you've also become stronger in other areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we talked this morning and we were figuring out and just so everybody knows, all of our like things work now. So everything that we dealt with last week around the video stopping and like not being able to see any comments, we can see them all now. I don't know what changed, but we probably.
So if you have like a comment or a question or like something that you want to add in, we're going to figure out how to like include you guys on this when we get another level of advanced technologically. But right now, just leave a comment on the Facebook the feed, and
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say that
Yeah.
this morning when we were arguing, you were saying like, I want more collaboration. I want you to come toward me. I want to talk things out. And I was just thinking about like that level of vulnerability on all sides, it's just so interesting to me, the concept of vulnerability, and to say, like we need to continue to talk this out and be collaborative.
Yeah, for me, it's like this. It doesn't happen. It's almost I'm almost seeing like a timeline here because it doesn't. And this is my whole process thing, right? But it doesn't happen immediately. Like if there is anger or there is an upsetness, like that needs space to be aired in a way.
Oh.
Well, hear me out though.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm acknowledging that, and you, because I haven't been the best at allowing that because I want to jump to the collaboration, right, and I want to jump past it, whether it was you that made me angry or me that made you angry, which happens a lot more often.
Welcome. We are here. You are welcome here. I'm glad you're here.
So like that needs to be aired, but like. I feel that like once experiences are expressed, right? So what was your experience with that situation? What was my experience with that situation? Like acknowledging like what happened in that moment. That can be very ugly. I'm not saying that's all roses, but like once those are expressed, I feel like there is a point when there is collaboration. And what I kind of constantly come back to is the fact that we have the same goal here. Like, we don't want to be in an argument. At least that's my perception in most of these moments. Like, we don't want to be in an argument. I don't think that you do.
Right.
I know that I don't. Right. I would care to gander that most couples out there, if they're fine, don't want to be in an argument. So actually, there is commonality. There's an equitable thing there, a starting place. And so in that, I think there is, a place in which you can begin to kind of collaborate on that. And that is another aspect of being vulnerable and then turning into that other person because you have that common goal.
Right. So one of the comments is that's the hardest part, to go back to the situations without reliving the argument. Without like hearing exactly from you what you're saying about that, Justin. I think, you're either speaking to the pain of the argument or that rehashing that happens. And I think that, definitely the rehashing of it, it's like sometimes you just wish you had a tape recorder going, which is pretty much what we're doing in our life for the most part, is recording everything. But, to have a tape recorder going, because you're like this, you have to work through confusion and misunderstanding, but then you also have to replay it, and it's from different people's perspectives, and it's an amazing thing. And also, like, I think that what happened with us this morning, and you kept calling me out on it, was like, we kept getting hooked back in. You're like, it's almost like you can't move on, right? Like, it's almost like I wasn't able to move on because we kept getting hooked back into the conversation. And, you say the common ground is neither person wants to be in the argument, but like, I think that there is some sort of desire for, how bad a word is retribution? That's a bad word.
I mean, I know what you mean by
like, there's some desire for like that you're like avenged.
I hear that, and I know that feeling, right? And we do it very differently. You do it very vocally, and you do it very like, out there and in my face about it, and I do it very subtly and backhanded.
Backhanded? That's a bad word.
Well, not like, I mean, like, sorry, I apologize for using that word. I meant like, passive aggressive,
or just passively.
Right.
It's not aggressive. It's just passive.
Yeah. So I do it very passively, is what I'm trying to say. But I think that that's something that both of us, in our own ways, have to move past. I think that any desire that we have, my personal belief is that any desire that we have
to cause that person suffering is, no matter what they did to you, is unhealthy.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
No,
I don't,
for
I mean,
sure, for
and I know
sure.
that sometimes there's people like, well, it depends on what they did, right? And like, I hear that, but I
The funny
don't
thing
believe
is,
that we should ever desire to
no,
cause somebody
right,
suffering.
right. And I
That's
think that,
not, yeah.
and I think the interesting thing is that at the hardest moments of in the hardest moments of our relationship are really the times when I want the least amount of suffering. And I find this when we argue, like, to see you in pain causes me pain. And so, I may feel staunch or stubborn about my need to move on or not move on, or I may just feel like I can't get out of that loop. But I really genuinely I really do not enjoy seeing you in pain at all. And especially when you've really messed up, which has been few and far between. But like when you've done something that's been really hurtful, it's like I can't stand it when you feel pain. And this morning, I'll just say, as we kind of wrap up, unless somebody else has a thought or a comment they want to share, we're open to it. But is that, I just have to say, and I know I've clarified this before, but a long time ago, we were taking a walk and you were like, we talk about clothes a lot, right? Because I do personal styling. And so we were talking about clothes and you were like, I know you hate this hoodie, right? And it's the neon green Oaklandish hoodie. And the truth is that you look really bad in most greens, but that one's different because it's A, neon, and B, it has the blue heathered in it.
Take these lessons, folks. It's really good.
And I think that the blue heather, which I have a pink hat that has blue heathered, and I've recognized that better than having tan heather in it is like, it really looks good on me. So this blue, it's the blue in the green and the neon that's different. But like literally, like, it's so funny because you were wearing that hoodie this morning. You had it up over your head and you have your glasses on, which I love those glasses on you. I don't know what it is about those glasses, but they're the best. And and you had your joggers on and you looked so cute. And I was so pissed at you and you looked so cute. But like 3 days ago, I had looked at that hoodie and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you haven't worn holes in it because you wear it a lot. I was like, how will I ever find this hoodie again? I have to recreate this hoodie over and over. And then I asked you this question. This is wild, windy story, but I asked you this question this morning and I was like, what are your 3 favorite things in the house? And I asked,
that's a great reading aloud question.
Yeah.
If you had another one, ask it. Yeah.
And so, and I was like, what are your 3 favorite things in the house? And you joking?
Yep.
And I didn't say the hoodie because I was thinking about the mugs and I was thinking about what was the other thing? Not the mugs, and what was the other thing? Favorite thing in the house? The diffuser that was broken, which we got replaced today. But is your hoodie, is that hoodie. And it means so much to me. Like that hoodie means so much. And there's so many moments, especially when you tuck it over your head, where I just feel like it's like you and that hoodie just symbolize rest and rejuvenation, but also just cute.
So
and
what's my takeaway? What's my thing?
Your favorite thing in the house was, and you and trouser were on my list, but your favorite thing in the house was the extension cord.
And
I love that you answered. I'm like, what's your
this.
favorite thing in the house? And you were like, the extension cord.
Wait, let me explain this because I have had to set up a home office instead of going into the office. I've had to set up a home office, and where I set up the home office, there is no outlet, and so before I had figured out the extension cord hookup, I was like moving positions to like charge my computer and then move it back over to charge to like sit and work until the computer ran out of battery. And then anyway, it was the show.
I know, but I actually.
But now with the extension cord, I can stay in my spot the whole time. It's vastly improved my life.
Loved that you said that because that's exactly what I meant. Like, what's your favorite thing in the house? And it didn't need to be anything. But then you were like, oh, I mean you and trouser. And I was like, yeah, well, of course. But also that was on my list. But like, I loved it.
So here's something that I enjoy about here's something that I enjoy that we have been able to do during quarantine is ask each other really goofy questions.
What's another one? I can't remember any.
I know, but we have done a pretty good job. I mean, well, we've been generally really goofy because there isn't much else to do. And so I think in general, the point is turning towards humor.
Yeah.
In this time. And, there's actually a really big underlying, and I know we kind of keep talking here, but there's a really big underlying issue of equity in humor. And when you can laugh with somebody and truly laugh, not like one person's funny and we're always laughing at them, or the other person's funny and they're always laughing at you, or something like that. And when it's not one-sided, but really as a couple, laugh with each other, not even at a movie, right? That's funny too, but that's somebody else creating it. Like together, be really goofy and laugh. There is mutual respect there.
Mm-hmm.
There's mutual respect, and there is mutuality in that. There's an equitable understanding there.
Whoa.
That there's an equitable understanding there that is just really powerful.
Hold on, sorry y'all, just so you know, what happened?
So I love in this how we're live and you love to talk about things that they can't see.
It doesn't, lives are not supposed to be,
so
they're not
in
scripted.
my glass, which has ice in it, the ice cracked and then popped out of the glass. It was amazing.
The ice cracked and shot itself
Shot
out of the glass.
all the way
and
out
it's
of the glass.
at the bottom. I love laughing, Mama. Can you translate that?
He loves laughing at the Museum of Modern Art. So yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there is, like being goofy and laughing is a really tenet of
huge tenet
of equity.
It's been a nice conversation.
Yeah.
I appreciate this as the end to the day. So blessings, y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks for being around.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you.
Next week, 8 p.m. Tuesday.
EDT.
Same place, same time. We love laughing with you. Maybe we'll try to lighten it up next week. Maybe not. Who knows? It'll be week 5-ish of quarantine. Bye.